This story comes from a time when science hadn't yet reached the peak we know today. In secret laboratories scattered across the globe, experiments were being conducted that, even now, send a chill down your spine. Somewhere, scientists were trying to create gold from basic chemicals. Elsewhere, they were desperately seeking formulas to extend human life. And in some hidden corners, they were engineering creatures that would never need to eat or sleep. But among all these ambitious minds, there was one man whose purpose was far more dangerous, far more unique. His name was Dr. Victor Halmer. Dr. Halmer dreamed of creating a creature that combined the agility of a monkey, the raw strength of a lion, and the far-seeing vision of an eagle. His ultimate goal was to build an army so terrifying and invincible that it could annihilate any enemy on the battlefield in mere moments. This wasn't a sudden whim. The idea had taken root in Victor's mind when he was just a young man. He had decided early on that he would challenge the very laws of nature. The moment he learned that a mule could be produced by breeding a horse and a donkey, a seed was planted. He became obsessed. He needed to witness the birth of a mule with his own eyes, to understand its genetic secrets, and then to take that principle and push it to its absolute limit. To begin his work, he found an old military building, far from the prying eyes of the city, and established his first secret laboratory. Its windows were always kept shut, and from the outside, the building looked silent, deserted, and empty. But inside, preparations were underway to create something new, something that defied convention. The first step was to select his subjects. He chose a healthy, powerful horse and a strong female donkey. For months, Victor meticulously observed them, monitoring their diet, their health, and every nuance of their behavior. He left nothing to chance. Finally, the day arrived. The mating was not a natural event, but a carefully orchestrated procedure involving complex scientific techniques developed by Victor himself. He waited. 9 long months passed. Then, it happened. A new creature was born, a mule. Victor was there, watching with his own eyes, captivated by how strange and yet magnificent it was. It possessed the impressive height of a horse, but its ears were long and distinct, like a donkey's. It had strong, sturdy legs, a broad chest, and an intelligence that was immediately apparent. Within just a few weeks, the young mule was already performing incredible feats. It could carry heavy loads without tiring, run across difficult terrain with ease, and it excelled in every single test Victor devised. This initial experiment was the proof Victor needed. It confirmed his belief that the laws of nature were not immutable. They could be bent, perhaps even broken. If a horse and a donkey could come together to create a creature that was stronger and smarter than both its parents, then what was stopping him from applying the same principle to other species? His mind immediately went to the ultimate combination, a human and an ape. With his new, bolder ambition, Victor turned his attention to Africa. He found another secluded location, an abandoned military outpost deep in the wilderness, and there he established his next secret laboratory. This time, the stakes were much higher. For the ape subject, he selected a strong and exceptionally intelligent chimpanzee. Finding a human subject was more complicated. He eventually found a healthy 22-year-old woman. He lied to her, spinning a convincing story that she was participating in an advanced medical study that would benefit all of humanity. She believed him. With his subject secured, Victor began the preparations. He put both the woman and the chimpanzee on a specialized diet, enriched with vitamins and unique hormonal supplements, to ensure they were in peak physical condition. The genetic procedures he used were far more complex than his previous experiment. He instructed his small, handpicked staff on the strictest security measures. Secrecy was paramount. He even went so far as to threaten the people in the nearby villages, ensuring their silence through fear. No more one was to know what was happening inside that isolated outpost. And then, the moment came. These procedures were successful. The woman became pregnant, but this was no more ordinary pregnancy. From the very beginning, it was clear that something was different. As Victor monitored the fetus development using his advanced equipment, he observed unsettling anomalies. The bones were growing unusually long and strong. The fingers were developing with a distinct curvature, more like those of a chimpanzee. Even the facial structure was forming in a way that was subtly, but undeniably different from our normal humans. By the 4th month, disaster struck. The woman fell gravely ill. Her body was rejecting the unnatural pregnancy. Her health deteriorated rapidly, and despite Victor's desperate attempts to save her and his experiment, the pregnancy ended. He had failed, but in his failure, there was a glimmer of twisted success. Victor examined the small, lifeless fetus. The evidence was right in front of him. It displayed the characteristics of both human and the ape. It had a small but incredibly broad jaw, long, slender fingers, and the eye sockets that were shaped exactly like a chimpanzee. It was the hybrid he had dreamed of. Fearing discovery, Victor knew he had to eliminate all traces of his forbidden work. He destroyed the fetus, his detailed notes, and all the equipment. He made it seem as if the laboratory had never existed. He abandoned the outpost and disappeared. The official story was that the experiment was a complete failure, but whispers and rumors began to circulate among the few who knew of Victor's work. Some claimed that the first attempt wasn't his only one. They said that another, later experiment was successful, that a living hybrid survived, and that it was secretly relocated to another hidden facility. The truth of what really happened remained buried, a dark secret lost to time. Years passed, but the story doesn't answer. In another secret facility, deep underground, a project was underway. It was known only by its code name, Hybrid 7. One night, an alarm blared through the sterile corridors. The heavy steel door of a containment cell began to groan and buckle. It wasn't being opened by any mechanism. It was being forced from the inside. With a final, deafening screech of tortured metal, the door was torn from its hinges. The main power flickered, plunging the lab into a terrifying twilight, pierced only by the pulsing red glow of the emergency lights. And sir, silhouetted in the crimson haze, its form was revealed for the very first time. Some called it Hybrid 7. Others, in hushed, fearful whispers, called it YUL. It was free. The culmination of Victor Helmer's twisted dream was finally unleashed upon the world. Thank you for watching. If you were fascinated by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the boundaries of science and the imagination. It appeared like a shadow, a creature caught between human and the ape. It was tall, lean, yet incredibly strong. Its eyes, while human in form, held the primal light of a monkey. Its fingers were long, its chest broad, and its legs pulsed with muscle. Every single movement was a display of raw power and sharp intelligence. Dr. Victor Helmer watched, his breath catching in his throat as he whispered, "It's not speaking, it's remembering." And then, it happened. Hybrid 7, the experiment, spoke its first words in a human voice. "Huayami." The doctor, struggling to keep his composure, replied, "You are an experiment, but you are alive. Your existence now depends entirely on yourself." Hybrid 7 took a step forward. Its gait was a mesmerizing blend, neither fully human nor fully ape, but a perfect fusion of strength and grace. It tried to speak again, this time in a language it couldn't have possibly learned Urdu. "My name?" Victor answered. "You don't have a name yet, but we will call you YUL, because you were born by breaking the laws of nature." Hybrid 7 tilted its head down and let out a laugh. It was a human laugh, but laced with a terrifying power that sent shivers down their spines. It spoke again, its voice softer this time, a single word filled with a universe of meaning. Why? This wasn't just language. It was consciousness dawning, a profound question about its very existence. It repeated its first question, the one that had shattered the silence. "Huayami." In that moment, Victor Helmer knew. This was where science ended and the fear began. The night was deep, but the laboratory was no more longer silent. It was filled with a tension so thick you could feel it on your skin. Victor and his assistant, Martin, stood frozen, caught between eye and the absolute terror. YUL, now sitting on a chair, scanned the room with alert, intelligent eyes absorbing every detail. Suddenly, it moved. It took one step, then another. The sound of its footsteps was unnatural heavy, almost metallic, yet fluid. Martin instinctively raised his rifle, but it was useless. Every shot he might take, YUL seemed to anticipate. Victor's heart hammered against his ribs. He could barely breathe. "This is it, Martin," he whispered. "The moment every scientist fears. The very principle of life has been broken. With a sudden, explosive movement, YUL reached out and he lifted a solid steel table as if it were made of cardboard. The entire room shook, and the glass vials shattered on the floor. Martin fired his rifle, but YUL just tilted its head, the bullet ricocheting harmlessly off its dense skull. This creature wasn't just physically dominant, it was mentally superior, dangerously sharp. A thrill ran through Victor, a terrifying excitement. This is exactly what he wanted, he murmured to himself. Nature's rebellious child, free from the laws of life and death. Yul's eyes darted around the room, a storm of curiosity, rage, and the inquiry swirling within them. Then, in a blur of motion, it leapt toward Martin. Its power and the speed were beyond human comprehension. Martin stumbled back, fumbling with his weapon. Victor, however, stepped forward. For a fleeting second, their eyes locked with Yul's. In those depths, Victor saw it all. Human understanding, simian cunning, and the birth of a new world order. This is the moment, Victor whispered, his voice trembling, where humanity and the science stand face to face with fear, where every principle has shattered, and the new creature has announced it will change the course of history. Hybrid Tuju spoke again, its voice now clear and commanding. Who can stop me? An absolute silence fell over the laboratory. The only sounds were the hum of the emergency systems, the flashing red light, and the Yul's deep, rhythmic breathing. In that instant, every rule of science, morality, and the fear was rendered meaningless. And in that instant, the world began to understand. YUL was not just a creature, it was a living, breathing, uncontrollable law. The night grew deeper. YUL moved through the dark forest, a phantom in the shadows. Its steps were now sure and resolute, its breath steady and powerful, its gaze sharp and all-seeing. It was no more longer a prisoner of the lab. It had found its way to roads, to villages, to the vast, open mountains. It reached the first village. People slept peacefully in their homes, completely unaware of the new predator in their midst. But Yul's eyes, with their unsettling mix of human intellect and the animal instinct, saw everything. Every flicker of a shadow, every rustle of leaves, every potential threat. A lamp flickered on inside a small hut. In a heartbeat, YUL lunged, its powerful legs covering the distance in a single, silent bound. It moved toward a villager who had stepped outside. Its speed and the tactical mind made human reaction time utterly obsolete. It hadn't come just to kill. It had come to test, to observe, to understand its own terrifying strength against the fragility of its creators. Screams tore through the night air. To YUL, those cries were like music, the sound of human emotion, twisted into pure, unadulterated fear. An old man fell to his knees, raising his hands in a desperate prayer. YUL simply tilted its head, as if this display of human faith was a curiosity, but not an obstacle. And then, YUL unleashed its full power, a devastating dance of leaps, strikes, and the calculated movements that plunged the entire village into chaos in a matter of moments. This creature was invincible, not just because of its physical might, but because of its brilliant, cold, and calculating mind. Watching from a safe distance through a pair of binoculars, Victor Helmer began to tremble. This is the moment, he choked out. The moment humanity becomes afraid of its own creation. This is the moment science broke the world and created a new kind of fear. Amid the chaos, Yul's voice echoed, now booming with confidence and the authority. Yeah, I'm alive. And this is my world. These were not just words. They were a declaration of sovereignty. A statement that YUL was not a mere hybrid, an experiment gone wrong. It was a new law of nature, something beyond the control of governments, religions, or the collective power of mankind. And at that very moment, as the sun began to rise on a scene of devastation, the world tasted a new, unfamiliar fear. The fear of a creature born from their own genius, a creature that would challenge the very foundations of human thought, power, and the existence forever. The age of YUL had begun. Thank you for watching. If this story captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that explore the boundaries of science and fear. We'll see you in the next one.